Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is Treacy OConnor with Straight to the Point, the show that's all about connection in all its forms. And I'm delighted to have with me this evening Aisling Fitzgibbon, who is a holistic nutritional coach. And Aisling is based in the southwest of Ireland in the beautiful Kerry. And I'm so delighted to have Aisling with me this evening. I've known Aisling for a number of years and I'm truly inspired by her journey, and I'm delighted to have her with us so that she can share a bit of this journey with you all. Hi Aisling, and you're very welcome.
Thanks Tracy for having me on. I'm delighted.
Lovely to have you here. Aisling, can we start maybe by sharing with everybody how you started on this journey and how you discovered your passion of nutrition as a form of wellness and well-being?
Yeah, well, I was studying to be an occupational therapist, and that was my path I thought I was, heading towards. And it was then through my own real health crisis that I had when I was 19. And I had a very severe episode of depression and anxiety and just complete collapse. So at that time, I ended up trying to explore different ways to, get better and find relief. I ended up going to the doctors, and at that time, I was really in a place of not knowing. So I ended up taking antidepressants. And at that time, I just thought that maybe I had some brain chemistry issue. So that I kind of bought that story. So I kind of went along with that. But deep down, I always knew that there was something I needed to address. I thought there was some root cause going on there. So when I qualified as an occupational therapist, I literally didn't have any energy to even apply for a job. It was like I just hit a wall completely. And then I ended up going down to a nutritionist in Devon. And basically I kind of set the intention I wanted to come off medication. I didn't want to be taking medication anyway, but I just set that intention. I needed to find a way to, to recover naturally. And then I discovered, just I suppose through my own experience then of actually following a healing protocol with nutrition, and actually I saw firsthand my whole system recover, and it was the most empowering experience. I didn't even know I had that in me to do it. And I think when I really became solid in myself then, from a health position, I felt like this is definitely the path that I want to go down. And really that led me on my kind of journey of basically becoming really a full-time activist. At that time, I got into campaigning against the fluoride, set up the Girl Against Fluoride campaign. And during that time, I also then started training as a nutritional therapist in the college in England with actually the lady I went to, who was my practitioner at the time. So I trained under her. And I just kind of knew deep down in my heart that it was the thing that made me feel most alive. So I just was like, I need to do this.
Wow. Tuning into your body, and even, it must have been a really grueling time to be going through depression, I suppose, knowing that you're so sensitive and being in an environment didn't at the time as much as it does now. To have the foresight and the drive to go and about it in a natural way was quite inspiring in itself. Yeah. Did you find that
Sorry, say that again? So just a bit of a lag there.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Have you got me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Great. Okay, great. So I was just saying, it must have been very hard to come off the antidepressants, but even though you had a drive, that you had the desire that you wanted to come off.
Yeah, exactly. Because prior to that, I tried to come off them myself, kind of without any support and just not knowing what I was doing really, and kind of coming off them cold turkey, and then really just going back into a very bad space. So then I'd end up going back onto them. So actually the whole process of coming off them then, because I was like, I don't want to go back, I want to just see this the whole way. But it was quite a daunting journey to take, because at time I just kind of had this huge hope that I could do it. But at times it was like, I didn't know, there was a period of time when it was like, I didn't know if it was working, because I was still feeling very flat, and I didn't I didn't see the results. Like, I didn't get better in a few weeks. You know, it took me a number of months to really see myself come round.
And so this is where the nutritional coach that you went to, I'm sure that you couldn't have got through it without her side.
Oh no, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I would have had very close contact with her, and just, you know, navigating the whole process, because it's fine to just have the plan, but it's like you were going on a journey that you need help to navigate, because at times, especially when you're when you don't know the wood from the trees and you're getting all these different symptoms and you don't know what to do with them, it's very hard to know, because you're just learning the ropes. Whereas kind of down the line, maybe I kind of obviously then got to a place where I could read my own self and I could know what I needed at different times. Whereas in that critical time when I was very vulnerable, it was, I suppose, I couldn't have done it without the support. I just realized, like, you can't do it without the support.
Yeah, which is why you went and did the training, so that you were in a position to support others who might be going through the same thing.
Completely.
And so can you explain, you work specifically on the biochemistry element of nutrition and how it affects our body, but our faiths as well, and men. How much studying did that take? And, you know, do you have to be a biologist to know all of this information?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, I suppose, accumulation of training of over 7 years really. But also the fact that I've done, like, I did the nutritional training to qualify as a nutritionist, but then I've gone and I've actually specialized with other, like, doctors that are basically training up natural therapists, doctors that are, you know, leaving, say, normal Western medicine practices, and also people that are going into the nutritional field. So last year I actually trained with a guy named Dr. Bill Walsh, and I actually can use part of his protocol in my coaching. So in this, you actually can test people's blood and urine to see their nutritional either deficiencies or excess, and then you can pinpoint what's going on for that person, and actually, you know, create a treatment plan based upon what is their unique biochemical imbalance, which can be affecting their mood and, you know, their concentration, their hormonal function, all these different things. So it's really just much more than just food, because obviously that's the foundation of it. Yeah, sure.
Would that relate to allergy? Seems like it's a bit deeper than an allergy testing.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Yeah, because it's looking at, say, for example, if you have, if a person has, if they're exhibiting, say, depression in their life or anxiety, what can be happening is there's an imbalance in the brain chemistry, but that's coming from the nutrients. So the nutrients actually help to balance out the brain chemistry, like serotonin and dopamine. It's actually coming from a nutrient origin. For example, within Bill Walsh's work, his whole kind of target is where the person's zinc, copper levels are. And these are just very simple, you know, basic ways our cells are made up. But if they're out of balance, and they actually have become very imbalanced, particularly in women, with different environmental factors like contraceptive and all these kind of things, these can then just create a complete cascading imbalance in the whole system of the person. So it is much deeper than just an allergy, or looking at it from more of that level.
Fantastic. It sounds like everybody needs this, Aisling. And you know, I certainly my nutrition as well. I definitely have gone through a journey, as everybody really does. Somebody said, if you haven't started on this journey already, don't.
Exactly. It's not for the faint-hearted. Yeah.
There's no going back. And so in that terms, you know, we really have to look after, and I know this, you know, that we have to look after our physical body, but there's something that's like, it's just routine and it's habit just to eat the same things all the time, and really to not look at So what kind of advice would you give to somebody like me who's together most of the time, but just hasn't made that step in looking at what we put into our bodies?
Yeah, well, I would first.
How do we start?
I would always start off, which I do with the clients that I work with. It's just the very base level to start getting the energy up. And a very simple way is actually just starting off using magnesium oil. You'll actually put it onto the body. So it's a very good way to, because the magnesium is the main mineral that drives the energy pump in your body. So I sometimes think that there's so many different things that we could be doing, but it's often when the energy has gone a bit low that it's very hard to do all those things. So I'll always look at like the first point of being able to bring up the person's energy. So I would always start off like, because that's the most gentlest way to get it into the body is through the skin. And also then I'd recommend doing Epsom salts baths along with that. And, you know, just as a starting point, really, just to kind of instigate getting going.
I would have never thought of putting something on the skin as being but it makes complete sense.
It can make a huge difference quite quickly, especially if you have had a lot of stress, and we all have had a lot of stress. And magnesium is depleted in our body when we have stress. So then that's why when you're kind of thinking, oh, I want to do all these health things, I want to, you know, have smoothies, I want to do all ththese different practices into my lifestyle. But it's often when you have a lowering in your energy physically that it's just like, oh, I can't, you know, I just want to it's hard to kind of make that leap into it, as you say, like to start it off, the process.
Actually, for sure. So as well that you know, the hormones can be, particularly with all the different you know, environmental stresses that we have. So what would you advise? Doing a lot of work with women who are looking to become pregnant to prepare their bodies as well. And you talk a little bit about what, you know, how are you connecting with that, and how are you finding, what's the difference that you're seeing in women that you've worked with? I'm sorry, the connection is a little bit bad this evening, so bear with me. Did you get the question? Sorry, it's a bit delayed.
Oh yeah, so you're just asking about, my voice is coming back to me. Like, how would you start off when you're working with somebody who's preparing their body for pregnancy, for fertility? Like, what kind of steps would I be taking with them? Yeah, well, I think again, I think because women, again, from the environmental impact that we're having at the moment in general, like within our kind of Western society, where we have lots of different things like the water, which is my huge thing. With fluoridated water, what's happening then in women's bodies over time is that our iodine levels have reduced. So that would be a huge thing that I would be working on. But it's like, within that whole picture, it's like you can't just take things willy-nilly either. So it's like, if somebody was wanting to increase their iodine levels, you have to first start off, build up their baseline minerals. Like if they were low in magnesium, for example, and then you gave them iodine, that would start the whole detox process. But if you weren't mineralized enough, you'd actually start feeling way worse. Like you could actually start feeling quite unwell. So again, like I would put it like in a holistic plan, but I would definitely be bringing in the iodine on a big level, and also supporting the thyroid with different detox techniques. A very good one that I would use is castor packing, which is a very, very simple thing that women can do. And it's basically just castor oil on a cloth. You can apply it to the thyroid area. But firstly, you pack there. Sorry about that. That's fine.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So apologies, everybody. Technology, just, you know, the beauty of live TV, I guess. Hey, anyway, we were really interrupted by the mischievous fairies over here in Ireland. We were speaking about the body for particularly obviously for women, preparing the body in pregnancy. And you were talking about the minerals and the body, and not just the physical preparation, but the emotional preparation as well.
Yeah.
So if you'd like, where you left off.
Yeah, completely. So I was basically just saying, when you're looking at getting ready for pregnancy, it's important to obviously optimize the biochemistry, and in particular with the hormonal system. Women in particular are very deficient in iodine because of many different factors, but that's a very important mineral, or it's an essential ingredient that our thyroid needs to be able to convert the thyroid hormones, which is very important for the woman's mental health, for their hormonal function, and also in particular for a baby's development, like mental or brain development, in the womb. So that's one very key ingredient that's really required to optimize. But also, as you say, it's not just looking at a woman mechanically and say, oh yeah, you need, typically, the folic acid or methylfolate, depending on the person's biotype, depending on what they need individually. But actually, I think a huge thing for a woman, because it's such a vulnerable time and it's such a journey to go on, it's actually the emotional support that I feel that's what I really want to offer women on a huge level, because I feel that I think it is an initiation for a woman to have a child, and so they're in the most balanced place. So they're, when they do have the whole experience, that they're in they're the most taken care of. They are almost cocooned before they actually provide their womb as the cocoon for their baby to come in.
Yeah, sure. And it makes complete sense, because if we're connecting and reconnecting with the earth, and actually the nutrients that come from the earth, the Mother Earth, in fact, to be able to support the growth and the cycle of life, it just makes complete sense. But Absolutely. None of this has ever been told to anybody, really. So This is very pioneering work that you're doing, and thank you so much for doing it. You mentioned when I was in conversation with you previously that you use specific fragrance alchemy to support this work as well. Would you like to describe what fragrance alchemy?
Yeah, well, it's actually another tool that I use in my practice, and that again helps the person to actually clear out any emotional blockages that are held at a physical level. So if you think about the body in terms of, like with Chinese medicine, you have all the meridians that are flowing through, and which are connecting to all your major organs. So these oils are connected. So you have like all the 12 major organs. So you work on, it's basically the acupressure points with specific healing oils that actually lift out different distorted emotions, very, very blocked, heavy emotions out of the organs. And it's absolutely phenomenal how effective they are and how quickly and gentle they work. And it's a beautiful tool, especially, I think it's almost like reminding you, as a woman, it's like you feel like a goddess. The oils are so beautiful. It's like you're anointing yourself, not just for healing, but almost for more of a ceremony, and to remind ourselves of creating these moments and high points in our lifestyles and our daily living, to make more magical moments in the very ordinary lives that we live normally.
Wow, that sounds amazing, actually. And are they based on medicine or made of?
Sorry, say that again?
They're so magical. Or what are the oils made of?
Well, they're
so magical, or is that?
They're blended in by an Egyptian family in Luxor. So they're around this process has been around for over 5 generations. And they're also they've been tested to be a very, very high resonance, so high frequency. So it's like as they work on the point, it's like they lift out stuff. So I was actually talking to the supplier who's based in Europe, who I buy the oils from, and I'm going to be doing an interview with him soon. But he was saying he actually worked with a woman just as an experiment, and he met her anyway, and she had an underactive thyroid. And so they were at this health conference, and there was a person who had, the thermal imaging. And so this lady anyway had her thermal imaging first. They wanted to just see. And so in the area, you could see the heat coming up on the thyroid because it was under functioning. And then they applied then the oils after the picture. They applied them to, like, there's 2 thyroid points, which is here and here. And then he actually applied it directly onto the thyroid. And then they did the picture again. And then they repeat, like, 2 hours later. And he said the whole thing had lifted.
Wow.
And I've seen, like, and that just obviously that's not been done in randomized control trials yet, but hopefully it will. But I've seen it in my own self firsthand with people. I can see like it actually lifts out stuff that you couldn't possibly get to, you know, from talking and, you know, reassuring and going through things from a mental level. It actually physically goes in and clears out whatever blockages are there.
It sounds like everybody could do with a bit of this, Aisling, too. And it seems that as the consciousness is shifting, that we're being presented with tools that are much lighter and I suppose are better suited to the vibration now to suit us in this time. I don't think it would have existed. Well, you said it was 5 generations. So how long have they been making this in Egypt?
These oils,
quite a long time.
Yeah. So, and they're based, like, it's very much linked to the whole, like, mystery school teachings within Egypt. You know, like, all these kind of things really have been suppressed for a long time. So it's almost like, I think just within timing now, it's all come through. Because, as you say, the consciousness levels have risen to the point where these tools can really return. I'm sure we've used them before in the past at some point. I certainly have memories of, they feel familiar to me more so than just the present moment. Yeah.
Wow, that's really fascinating. As you're speaking about Egypt, and I'm being reminded that where you're based in Kerry is not far from where an Egyptian princess is married.
That's right, Queen Scotia.
The connections are everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, it's fascinating. With the whole, I think it's really, to me, like with the work that I want to bring into the world, it really is to express the feminine, the divine feminine, and bring that through in a way that's practical, that we can actually live and embody it. And also for men to tap into that as well and join in with the women. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm coming across this a lot lately, Aisling, and I'm sure you are too, that there's definitely a rise in the consciousness around the divine feminine and what that is. And for me, and I'm very clear about, when I speak with people about it, it's not just about women. Certainly not. It's about the divine feminine that exists within, and men as well, is those qualities of nurturing and femininity and just of creativity. And what does the divine feminine mean for you?
Yeah, for me, I feel it is the kind of powerhouse of creativity that we all have within ourselves. And it's that intuitive knowing that goes far beyond any mental, logical mind. It's like, I say, it's like a wellspring that we can tap into that has unlimited ideas and solutions, and everything that's needed to comes through that. So I feel kind of opening up into that is the time now, because obviously globally it's quite chaotic, and there's all this destructuring happening, but at the same time that's necessary for this to start to come through. And I feel it's just the time. And I think all the different tools that are coming through are really to help us to embody it, to bring it through, to release any blockages, to remove any programs of the old story. Everything, all the solutions, that you can imagine are actually available for us.
Yeah, sure. And as you're talking, I'm getting the image of the masculine of what we've been through is very much driven from the head, and the taking action and the thinking and the doing, whereas it's now really a time of coming down into the heart, which would be the more feminine, I guess, and it's that sort of energy of love, which is a term that's been way overused, but it's a feeling of connecting with your body. And I think that's why it's so important, especially what you're doing, Aisling, in terms of we have been so energetically heavy in our heads that it's time really for us to tune into our bodies. And if we can't tune in fully to our bodies, because of the toxicity and the nutrients or lack of that we're putting into them, then what chance do we have of, so it's hugely important. Thank you so much.
Well, it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey to get here, but it's definitely been worth it.
It certainly, as you said, it's not for the faint-hearted. And certainly, it's not a faint heart that you have. It's a very strong one, for sure, and a beautiful one. Aisling, tell me, where can people find out more about your work? And I'm sure you work with people online as well. We're joined not just by people in Ireland, obviously, but in the US and around the world. Where can people work with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, well, I'm set up to work online now for the past year. So you can find me on my website, which is aislingfitzgibbon.com. And I have blogs, so I put out a weekly blog. And I also have a free Facebook group called Energy is Your Currency Community. So people can join that, and I put out, various conversations and ideas and, all the different stuff that I'm learning and just wanting to share in that group. So it's a nice starting point for people to get to know me and ask me questions and take it from there.
Lovely. It's great, isn't it? Technology is so wonderful, and it just makes the information so much more accessible. And I love that about the community as well, and you have that sense of collaboration and sharing with people and just being in the heart, which, like the Healing Connection Network, is on the same principles. So I'm sure there's plenty of people in the Healing Connection Network who will love to check you out. And I'm sure on your website you have links to all the social media, right?
Oh, everything's there. Yeah.
Great. Brilliant. Listen, apologies again for the technical hiccups in the middle. And thanks everybody for tuning in and for bearing with us while we go through these. But anyway, Aisling, it was really lovely chatting with you. Thanks so much. And I wish you the very best with everything. You're just going to go from strength to strength. And you're just glowing. So I'll definitely be in contact for my own energy currency for sure. Thank you for being so kind. Inspiration.
Oh, thanks so much, Treacy.
So thanks for joining us, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And I'm Treacy OConnor, straight to the point, and my website is treacyocconnor.com. And Aisling Fitzgibbon in Kerry, and her website is aislingfitzgibbon.com again. So thanks, and tune in next week and we'll have another very inspirational guest from Australia this time. So have a good evening, everybody, and thanks, Aisling.
All right, thanks, Treacy. Bye.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.